flawless, perhaps. It looks like there's going to be a Sombra composition out from the side of the Warriors. They're going to go for that Sombra 3-3. And, or 3-2-1 as it is. And Ground Zero, they're rolling out on a Widow. Mirrored comps, Widow for Sombra, Zenyatta for Ana. So Tung showing, not going on to the Ana early on, stays on the Zenyatta. Noz takes a headshot early, that's going to take a bit to patch up. But now they know the Widow is in play. How will Warriors position themselves against this?
Behind the poles, that's what they're going to try and do. At least Jungle just jump on forward, playing with fire at the moment, and that's what I'm talking about. Nami,
he didn't get the memo.
You can't give him that many opportunities. It's the end of Jungle, probably the end of the fight as well, as we see Noz dropping early there too. Poor old Tung is on a bit of a mission off the edge, perhaps.
Off the map.
See, mates, what's down there? Oh.
I don't know. It's just cliffs.
Cliffs and
rocks, I guess. That's painful.
You know, what I would question is, like, why can't Zenyatta just float there? You know what I'm saying? Like, floats everywhere else. Why can't he just float around there?
You're not wrong. I don't know. Maybe he's got a floating limiter, right? He's not that strong. He's not powerful enough to float.
That's pretty unfortunate because he can use Transcendence. That seems pretty powerful to me. Anyway, Mini
closing in on this Shatter, very close in on this Shatter, and this is opening the sightlines up for Nami, and Modern goes down early. No more ults committed, no ults committed in fact at all on the side of Ground Zero Gaming. This Widow pick has really thrown a curveball. Warriors haven't really been able to deal with it. They don't have the Winston to deal with it, so it's all on Huss really. No D.Va, no Winston. It's quite difficult, and Huss doesn't want to be dealing with the Widow. He wants to be spamming up to getting his ult charge, to getting this EMP.
It's difficult for Huss to do that, that's for sure. Mini with some nice positioning at the start of the fight there as well, able to just start the fight off, like cleaving through Warriors, putting them at the...
Huss's life just got a whole lot more difficult with that infra side out for Nami. Mini getting aggressed on the point.
Well, does get the external barrier, and Shadow goes down from Modern. A response from Mini. Gus will just survive. Great block, in fact, from Mini, using his body to stop Modern's charge, and well, sooner or later the fight goes the way of Ground Zero.
Nami's cleaning up too. He's getting very important picks. You know, both times, in both fights, he's picked off a support early on in the fight. This time it was Tung before Jungle Jazz. He's really getting value out of this Widowmaker pick. I was skeptical at the start, but he's really shown some prolific shots on this Widow. But now the Warriors, they have the ultimate combo, they have the EMP, they have the Graviton Surge. And little Tung has his Transcendence to protect himself too, versus the Gusto Grav. This fight's going to be close. It's going to be all on the Warriors. They need to win this one if they want a chance on the point. But Nami goes out very low at the start.
Huss still looking for the EMP. Does get forced to translocate on back. It's a 1-for-1. Both Brigitas are out of the picture. Roro having just used his rally. Gunther will probably just get a little bit too late of a sound barrier down there. Nami still is trying to salvage this fight with a pick onto Tung. Can't really get too much more through the sound barrier. It's onto Dalsu to contest the point, but we're up to 99 anyway, so Ground Zero happy to give this fight up.
Yeah, but they're very low on ults now. Modern with the Earth Shadow, it's the only one, and...
Well, both sides are fairly low on ults, really.
Yeah, but Ground Zero are less reliant on ults, right? Like the Ana, you can rely more on an anti-nade. You know, the Widow, you could have relied on a headshot, but now he does swap over to the Sombra, so he's gonna give himself the opportunity to build an EMP, and that's going to be like what they're going to base their fight win around, because they only need to win one fight. So if they can win the fight off the EMP that Nami can build, if he builds it fast enough, then that's going to be their go sign. But at the moment, they are just going to be playing very passive, trying to get some point control, trying to get some ultimate charge onto Nami, who wasn't able to get any so far.
Modern is able to get the Fire Strike off, but the Shatter certainly is going to go the other direction. I think it mostly has done damage over to the Warriors, but Mini also isn't going to be able to block Moderns. It's a 3-for-2 in the grand scheme of things. That's going to favour Ground Zero at this point, and with Mini still alive, with Dalsu still alive, with Gus still alive, those are three very, very powerful players. And it's kind of the exact combination that you would want in a situation like this. Transcendence through from Tung. The Graviton Surge goes down after
Huss
the back,
gets caught.
and Huss is done and dusted. So is Modern. Ground Zero, they've just got enough to deal with what Warriors threw at them here by the looks of things. They actually did even flip the point back over in that fight, and first one goes the way of Ground Zero. 1-0 up the ruins.
Good signs from Ground Zero. The Widow pick throwing them off, getting to 99%. That's a great start from the side of Ground Zero, but they swap over to the Sombra, and they show to be, you know, pretty confident on it too. They get the hack onto Modern. Mini goes for the shutter. Unfortunately, it doesn't come off. But Huss dying twice there. He was on 60%, dies once, comes back to the fight, gets caught in a Graviton Surge, goes down, doesn't get the EMP off. And that really spells just the doom for the Warriors there. But I think they're going to be more comfortable on this point. As you can see, the DPS picks coming out. Huss on Widowmaker, Roro, Farah, Noz on Hanzo. This looks like a more comfortable team composition for the side of the Warriors. Whereas Ground Zero, they're going for the Roadhog. And they've got the McCree sorted out too. Nami showed a lot of talent on that Widowmaker. McCree hit scan as well to see what he can pull off there.
Well, it's certainly expecting a Farah, but it is going to be a bit of an interesting composition out here from Warriors. You've got Modern on the Orisa, but no Hog. That's a great Bionade. Dalsu, Gus, and Duboy all copping it.
It's going to take a little bit to patch all them up, and the positioning is all on the side of the Warriors now. It's going to be very difficult for Ground Zero to get back in on this. Nade used by Dalsu, but only collects his own teammates.
Found a bit of a ring around the rosy here. You can tell Modern, Duboy, Mini are kind of looking for that whole combo. And he will find the opening pick of the fight, and Nami also able to get around the side of Modern. And here comes the damage we talked about with the McCree. Work from Nami.
Gets a few key kills in that fight, but the one that was Huss getting picked off by the Orisa there, it was quite odd. Maybe Mini got the Holt on him when he was mid-grapple, or he cancelled it or something, but that's a kill you don't usually expect to see.
Yeah. Like, unless someone did a fair bit of damage, a fair chunk of damage onto Huss, and it was sort of just a tickle from him, the Orisa. Finish it off at long range or something like that.
We have the sniper ultis coming out. Hanzo ult can be quite potent on this point, force you into the open. But Gunther goes down, tagged by a rocket, and then finished off by one. Huss gets the pick on Nami too. This is going all wrong for the side of Ground Zero.
It was looking like such a great setup, but now it seems as though that is going to last a little bit of a shorter time than Ground Zero really would have liked. At least some good contest time coming out from Ground Zero, especially with Gunther still hanging around, up to about 47% as the flick comes across. Duboy and Nami swapping on up. It's going to be Genji, Sombra. Triple DPS? No.
No, Mini just takes... Mini likes to do this a lot. When he's bursting the Pharos and on the King of the Hill,
that's right.
He really likes to swap to Widow and have a shot.
It makes sense if you're going to swap from Orisa anyway. If you hit the shot, sure. If you don't hit the shot, well, you were swapping anyway.
Huss hits the shot.
Huss hits the shot indeed. Dalsu down to the headshot. Mini with the body shot. And really not much to be done there for Ground Zero.
Huss is in his element now, playing the Widowmaker versus the DPS. He's quite experienced in this matchup, actually. Played it all the way into the World Cup last year as well, so he's going to be very confident right now.
Thanks for the assist.
Lots of damage from the rockets early on, before the fight even starts.
Yeah, it is very difficult if you don't have a long-range hit scan to get in on this point versus Farah. If you're sitting there with the damage boost, it can be quite dangerous. See Duboy dropping very low, same with Mini.
Ooh. Winston Bubble keeps them both alive, but not for too long. A nice sleep out from Dalsu, however, perhaps just a little too late. Duboy's managed to get some resets, but straight into the Storm Arrow headshot from Noz. What are you going to do about that one, Duboy? Not much to be done, unfortunately, as the self-destruct goes flying across. Actually catches Noz somehow, and Gunther's knocked Modern off. So Warriors, I don't know how they lost that fight, but they did.
No, they did manage to lose it. That bomb, I didn't think it was going to get anything, but turns out Noz had a moment to stare at it. Goes down. But well done there by Duboy. He gets actually the dash and the melee combo on the Farah, which is quite hard to hit because she's up in the sky, mucking around. Manages to hit it, and then he goes and hits the next one as well. So that's nice little mechanics out of Duboy. Very talented young player. Exciting to see how he's developed over these last Contenders seasons.
Big change up though from Warriors with their roster going straight back to Winston Goat.
And they are going to be running into the EMP of Nami too. This is, as mentioned...
It's not the kind of fight you want to take. 87% for Ground Zero.
Definitely not. And if Duboy can get this blade up as well, it could be lights out for the Warriors.
Might well get the blade out. Indeed, Nami is going to get the EMP. There was a slice through from Duboy. Let's not go back to the slice and dice days, but certainly got that blade out in time. Didn't really do a whole lot with it, I'll say. Roro goes down, but regardless, the damage is done from Ground Zero. And
He's
map
done
one
enough. Mini jumps into the pit.
Yeah.
We've seen that more than once this season.
Doesn't matter.
You see Roro coming back on the Tracer, the Noz Diva coming out, staggering onto the point. The swaps are in, Huss on the Soldier, but it's not going to be enough. Roro is going to be the last man to touch, I believe. That's 1-0, an early start for Ground Zero. This is good signs. That's the first time Warriors have lost a King of the Hill match.
All I'm going to say is we always talk about Roro with the Dragon Blade, but when have we ever talked about Roro with the Pulse Bomb?
We haven't.
Exactly.
That's something that we don't really mention.
Didn't expect anything from him.
But it's been Jeezy peasy so far.
It has been, that's right.
Actually, yeah.
It wasn't Jeezy very hard, so that's definitely the alternative that I think Ground Zero would prefer at this point.
No, I mean, it's been a good showing from Ground Zero early. They've shown a Widow pick that threw Warriors off a lot, and then they managed to clutch things out with the Sombra.
Was it Jeezy peasy? Like, was it pretty easy?
I don't think it was Jeezy peasy.
No, I think it was pretty hard.
I think it was a good round. They did manage to clean the Koth up 2-0 though.
Yeah.
But the flexibility on the side of the DPS players from Ground Zero, playing Widow, Genji,
well, I think
Sombra,
from both sides, really.
Yeah. It was very impressive. I mean, you expect that out of Roro and Huss, though. You know, they are the long-term DPS players. Roro played DPS pretty much exclusively last season up until the finals, and then. But we haven't really seen a lot out of the side of Ground Zero DPS-wise. You've seen Juboy stuck on Brig for a very long time.
Yeah.
Nami was on Mavericks last season. Didn't really get a lot of time to spread his wings, but
well, they've really started. I think they've started to flourish a little bit this season. The
Definitely.
two DPS players for Ground Zero. Not only just them, but like all of Ground Zero seem to have sort of worked their way into this meta pretty nicely. I mean, I suppose there was no real concerns for a player like Gus because you know we've seen him on the heroes that he's been playing this season all the time, like 24/7. No worries there. Dalsu, you're finally starting to get a season where Ana has become prevalent because like he's just been trying to get on that for the longest of times in a competitive setting. And finally, there's some sort of relevant Ana gameplay starting to come out here this season. Juboy and Nami are being able to sort of spread their wings and be able to use those DPS characters that you know they've kind of known for in a way. Obviously, Nami on the Widow and Juboy with the Pharah and that kind of thing. Yet they still are sort of quite grounded in their roots of the 3-3 setup. And then, you know, obviously we've brought Gunther in. I guess you're going to get Lucio's that are fairly good because Lucio's been meta for ever, basically. And, well, who am I missing, really? Mini,
he's been a...
Main tank life. Like, nothing really seems to change too much for main tank. You're always on there with Reinhardt or Winston.
Winston's been pretty good this season, too. Despite jumping into the pit on the pole and now into the pit on Ilios. Yeah. He's still played very well with Winston, and he's played it pretty consistently as well. I mean, the Order Series, he was probably my player of the match. So he's carrying the form over, and if Nami's popping off, if Duboy's popping off, and Dalsu's popping off as well, then this is going to be a hard series for the Warriors.
It just does seem sort of like the meta has kind of worked pretty well for Ground Zero.
Yeah, definitely.
For Warriors, I think you could probably say the same. You know, they've got some good Sombra players, they've got good DPS players. They were, in a way, sort of almost even playing this kind of a meta last season where there's a lot of variety coming out. So it hasn't been bad for Warriors at all by any means. But
no,
to have a start 1-0 or 0-1, I guess, if we're talking in the context of Warriors, down against Ground Zero, who's one of your major competitors right now, one of the teams that's really chasing you for that first spot, it's got to be a bit of a, oh, hang on. You know, normally we're good at the start of the series. So far up to this point, they had 100% win rate on Control. So that's been broken. What else is going to be broken today? You know, is their 100% series win rate going to be broken?
It could be. Maybe they'll win an escort map this time. Well, they did pinch one, actually, I think. But either way, if you're the likes of Mind Freak, the likes of Order, the likes of, well, Atletico, you're really happy to see this result going so far. I mean, fingers crossed it continues for Ground Zero if you're one of those teams, but things are looking up. See how Warriors respond on Volskaya.
Volskaya, just looking back at the history between the two, Ground Zero have a loss and Warriors have a win.
I think that Ground Zero loss was in the first week, if I'm correct, and that was Mind Freak, yeah, and they were looking like a totally different team in week one. Ground Zero really turned things around after that Mind Freak series and managed to get a good win over Atletico, good win over Order. So that really ponders the question: what's going to happen on this map? It looks like Nami's locking in the Widow again on the defense.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed to see it.
No, this is one of the points where you can kind of get away with Widow just because the sight lines are so long, and every time you try and rotate as a team on the offense, it can be quite difficult to find enough cover to get you from point A to point B without having some vulnerabilities to an Anonade, to a Widow headshot, even a Zenyatta alternate fire, the right click. So if you can get the picks on the Widowmaker, then he can make it work, but it is hit or miss. As we see Warriors rolling out the DPS composition, the 3 DPS, the Hanzo, the Pharah, and the Sombra. Hust, very proficient Sombra player, and he will do a very good job at shutting down any sort of mispositioning, just like Adam did last series.
Well, I think that's what Nami is going to try and do as well, although...
I think Nami's going to be running around the place.
Yeah, Nami's really being harassed. The concussion blast goes through and knocks him off, but grapple's okay. Modern dives on in. Nami just can't get a free sightline at this point. It's a much different kind of a story than what we saw on Ilios, where he was fairly uncontested. This is a total contest
Jungle
onto the
going
Widow.
very low and gets taken down early. It's very good aggression there, but Noz has returned onto Nami.
Yeah, so no res available for either side, naturally. But it's a player advantage right now for Ground Zero, which they kind of need to consolidate. They need more, which they do get. Gunther and Gus, the GGs. That might be it for Warriors as well, GG.
Yeah, they might be dropping the GGs if this series doesn't pick up. Modern swaps over to the Winston and Noz swaps over to the D.Va. So now they are swapping to this 3-2-1 composition with the Ana and the Sombra. I like it a lot better. It's a lot more safe, a lot more stable, but Nami swapped over to the Sombra himself. So we have a mirror matchup. How do they compare on the mirror, Ground Zero? They did well on the counters, they did well on the funky stuff.
Bit of damage being done by Tongue. Nothing too substantial just yet. Elsu has got the nano boost built on up, and that's going to go straight over to Mini, who finds Haas. Does he have a translocator? I don't think so. I think that's where he translocated to. He does have a team, though, to help him out.
Sure did.
And nano boost doesn't really result in much.
No, it kind of results in a little bit of poking, but not a lot else. As Mini has secured his ultimate, though. Haas has secured the EMP. This is going to be the fight, the thing that really opens the fight.
Yeah, it only hits 2 players. One of them, though, was a Mini, and they need to keep him alive. He has Primal Rage, but they can't. A nice nano boost through from Tongue as well. I think might have actually been slept onto Modern. Nonetheless, it's going to be a fight win for Warriors.
It's an ideal result for the side of the Warriors too. They prevent Mini from using his ultimate, so there's not going to be any stall there. There's not going to be any chance for a recontest. It's all down to this second point defense now. They do have a good little amount of ultimates on Ground Zero, but Mini getting hacked again. Will he get punished? He's so low.
Looks like it.
Modern chasing, but I don't think it'll be enough as he gets turned on and picked.
Yeah, that might have been a bit over-eager from Modern. The rest of the team wasn't really there for Warriors to kind of heal him up. But
no, but Hustler's already lapped Nami on the EMP. He's already got another one going. He must have done so much damage to Mini there after hacking him.
It's a bit of a throwback to the old King's Row that we saw from Huss. He does at least have EMP built up here. It's not a lap just yet. Both at equal footing. Though Huss at the second and Nami at the first.
So now we see the aggression. Very good positioning on the side, but Huss does catch Jewboy, and that means Gunther's beat is going to be the one that saves him.
Catches Nami there as well, which means no EMP can come back from Ground Zero. But now that that has sort of faded away, even still Nami is hacked on up, but sooner or later Nami's going to get away. Perhaps won't even need the EMP. Gus just gets the freest kill of his life with that self-destruct. Dalsu now forced into a corner with Modern, which is not a place you want to be, but nicely peeled by his teammates and gets out of there okay. Modern can't do a whole lot, cannot survive at all. It's a trade for the Winstons. Noah's now under the pressure and will be smashed away by the mace to the base.
Very well defended by Ground Zero there. Knock off the map, finishes him off, gets a bit more ult charge for Jewboy, but very well defended there. Gunther's beat was instrumental in defending that. It really countered that the EMP out from Huss, who's now up at 65% again already. My lord, that man is building fast EMPs this season. But isn't how fast you build them, it's what you do with them, and unfortunately wasn't able to capitalize on that one.
Fair. But I suppose you miss every shot you don't take.
That's correct.
So the more shots you have, the more chances something is going to stick to the wall. Nami, I mean, 2 players, it's not the biggest EMP that we've seen. Is it going to be enough for Ground Zero to find any advantage of? Perhaps not, especially not with a counter EMP from Huss that's going to connect onto 4. Gus will be the one that they chase down. One tick has already been secured by Warriors, up to 46% now. The fight doesn't seem to be as clean maybe as Warriors would have liked.
Supports are going down on the side of Warriors. It makes things difficult, but they do have the point advantage at the moment.
Modern is still on the point as well, which is definitely a big asset for Warriors. The big hammer, as we like to call him. Kunmung Chi.
It's closing
Love
in
that
on that
one smash.
Yeah, it was very well done. Closing in on that Earth Shadow too, but Gus gets hacked and demexed before he can get his Diva Bomb off. That's disastrous, and it does look like the cap of the Warriors is going to come out. Modern misses his Earth Shadow on Mini. It can be quite difficult to nail that.
Blame that one on the lag.
Blame that one on ping, but Warriors do cap out with about 2 minutes 44 remaining.
Yeah, not a bad time.
And Haas building EMP after EMP after EMP. One finally sticks, and they manage to get the push off it.
244. It's a pretty scary prospect, I'd say, as ground zero.
It's one of those ones where, you know, you're going to have to defend on first point, you know, 3 times maybe, and,
Yep.
and that's 3 tough. Defending once is, you know, doable.
Doable.
Defending twice, you're a little hairy, but doable. But the third fight is usually one that
Like,
gets
third fight,
the
you've
push
got all your ultimates.
Yeah, exactly, and it becomes more difficult because as the defender, you're forced to defend with ults every time, pretty much, and the attackers, they can choose not to spend them, save them up, and going for one big push.
That's if we get to the time bank.
That is not guaranteed to get to the time bank. No, Ground Zero have some work to do, capturing 2 points. Warriors definitely looked better on Volskaya than they did on Ilios, but that wasn't difficult as they have selected.
Lay it on him.
Well, I mean, 2-0.
Get
Didn't look too hot.
the smash brother on them.
They didn't look too hot at all. Warriors.
I want to hear the BM. I want to hear the savage smash.
Well, that was about as savage as it gets, really.
I'm sure you can
Muster up
hit a
something.
new level.
Oh, we'll wait for the Mavericks game, mate.
Well, this is a bit more like it.
Yeah, that's where the savagery comes out.
That'll be tomorrow.
Yeah, it will be.
Well, hey, it might not be savage against Melbourne Mavericks if they win that series. If they beat Legacy, then going to be a bit of fire spat the other way.
Yeah, I'm all for it too.
Anyway.
Hopefully for their sake they can. We see some interesting compositions here. We have the Warriors playing the Torbjorn bunker comp, and now Ground Zero have seen that, don't want any part of it, and they're going to go swap to 3-2-1, I believe, or they're going to swap to a bunker comp of their own. The offensive bunker has been seen in matchmaking all over the world recently.
Nami, a lot of pressure to rest on those shoulders if the Widow stays, but
Minnie's decided to give it up.
yeah, not the option that Ground Zero wants to go with. Pretty standard dive now. 2-2-2.
It's quite a hard composition to pull off this 2-2-2 though, especially on a map like Volskaya where there is a lot of distance to cover between the dives. You know,
Yep.
there's positioning on both sides of the point. It'll be quite difficult for. Oh, geez, Roro getting very low, but he does retreat back to Big Hammer's big shield.
Big shield. But at least some better positioning now gained by Ground Zero. Dalsu with 81% of the nano boost. And chuck that one onto Mini and probably still charge another before Dubois gets the blade up.
Certainly can. Modern under a lot of pressure, gets hacked as well, but he does get the healing from Tongue and Jungle to keep him alive.
1-for-1, Roro drops. But so has Dubois and Nami.
Trades once more as Mini takes out Haas, finding his translocator. Gus gets the nano boost, and this is going to shred Modern if he manages to get in position. One tick already goes over to the side of Ground Zero. The nade eaten by Gus, actually eaten by his face. That will mean he will go down.
Eaten by his face. That's not ideal at all. I think the rest of Ground Zero are starting to flounder a little bit in this fight, but no one on the point.
Bullfit wants this knockoff. He gets Modern too. Saw that coming a mile off, but it's not going to be enough to close out the fight as Noz has returned on the Torbjorn.
Sort of keeps it in the fight though for Ground Zero. I mean, they're still hanging around. This is taking a long time now. Tung did get a sleep, but really not able to capitalize on it on his own, unfortunately not.
Roro's given up the Widow. He swapped over onto the Tracer. Interesting decision. The EMP is going to come out soon from us though.
And there it is. 3 players picked up off the back of that. One of them was Mini, who dropped really early on in the piece. Warriors, now they're winning the fight cleanly, and now they're finally going to push Ground Zero back. It's 66.2% capped up, but that's not enough for 2 ticks. Job gets harder from here for Warriors. Minute 29, or rather for Ground Zero, much easier for Warriors, quite frankly.
This composition is quite interesting from Warriors. The Torbjorn does prove to be very difficult to deal with if you are a dive DPS team, and they certainly are on the side of Ground Zero. And you saw Mini diving in. As soon as he got hacked, Noz was able to just almost one-tap him with that right-click from Torbjorn. Very powerful shotgun.
It's going to be an EMP blade available in this one for Ground Zero. Nami's looking for said EMP already. Dalsu has dropped, however. The EMP still hasn't been thrown in from Nami. Dewboy's 5 HP on the point, somehow still alive. Somehow still alive. I've no idea how Dewboy has survived that long. Roro finally finishes the job. And Jungle picks Tongue back on up, so Warriors might still have something to say in this one. Self-destruct through is going to cause massive problems for both Tongue and Jungle Jazz. And Ground Zero do cap the point out somehow without even using their EMP.
No, Nami just couldn't find the right option to EMP there. It looked like it was going to be only one-man EMPs wherever he looked, and you really don't want to use that ult just on that one man. But he will find better ones here. Will hustle translocate in time. He will. He escapes the EMP, but he goes down to Mini anyway, nailing that translocation location.
Translocation location. You heard it here, folks. Warriors are going to have to translocate themselves onto the point because there is quite a few ticks being capped on up. Modern is on top of Dalsu, and what are you going to do here is Ana. Die, basically, is the answer. I think that is what Modern is probably yelling at this point. Unfortunately,
Gunther too.
That's kind of what his team is doing right now. Ground Zero are really dispatching of Warriors. That said, Modern's come back with a vengeance. He's found 2 now and perhaps a 3rd. Great fight from him. Gets both of the healers out of the picture.
But Mini answering on his own, picking up 2. Roro hacked in the corner. Yes, Mini does get there in time. He knows that Huss is low too. He's pushing for him. He really wants to commit. He's feeling himself, but Terry's put him to sleep. Modern wakes him up. Might have been a mistake there from Modern, as he could go off the map here. No, he's managed to escape, but Mini doesn't have the teammates to keep this push going. The anti-nade does hit on Tongue, and Mini's feeling it, but he's not able to clean it up. And this fight looks to be a reset now as Mini goes down. But boy, did he cause a lot of issues while he was going.
It was a lot of issues, I think, being caused by both the main tanks there. Oh, wow. Dairy me. 2 ticks have been collected by Ground Zero.
That really was just a battle of the main takes duking it out, getting as much as they could off their primals. Really good primal mechanics there from Modern, actually, to juggle the Ana and then straight into the Lucio that, you know, tried to help his Ana out. That's quite difficult to do. Lucio is pretty slippery.
Here's an EMP for Nami. It's hitting 3 players. Tongue did at least get the nano boost out before that, which Modern is using to a great effect. Having now also built up his primal rage, is going to be an absolute menace in this one. Noz demeched. He'll get his own self-destruct out, but I don't think it's going to cause too much of a problem. At the very least, does allow Noz to re-mech. And all in this meanwhile, it's Modern that's dancing around in the back lines. Dalsu, surely not long for this world, does actually get the peel from Gunther, and Modern overwhelmed by the power of numbers for Ground Zero. Now we turn our attention to Mini, who has his own primal rage stunned up for a second, but Roro won't last too much longer than just that. We've heard that before, but regardless, it's Warriors that are now struggling in the fight. Ground Zero finding the numbers on the point, finding the kills on the kill feed, an EMP from Huss. It's a good one, it hits 6 players, but there's 6 players around 1 Sombra, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, his gun revision stats will go up from that at least, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. As the cap out from Ground Zero means that we've got a match on our hands. 2 minutes plays 2 minutes 44, 157 plays 244. So this is going to go a tight matchup, just like we saw last series on Auto versus Mind Freak. Both teams with an opportunity to push, both teams with an opportunity to snowball. Who will manage to nail it down? We saw Warriors with a very stoic defense with the Torbjorn coming out, and the offense from Ground Zero kind of floundering a bit, very messy until they managed to overwhelm them with ults. So if we see a repeat of that, I don't even think Ground Zero will capture the point. Warriors are going for the same defense.
I would be surprised if Ground Zero doesn't cap the point in a minute 57.
I don't know, it can be very difficult. Especially versus these, you know, wonky comps with the Torbjorn, the Widowmaker. There's a lot of threats there.
Well, have you got an analogy for a wonky?
What, a wonky composition?
Yeah, you know, just some sort of West Australian little bit of a saying or slang or something. I'm sure you can come up with something.
It's a bit like your shirt last week. It was a little bit out of the ordinary.
Well, that's a bit rude. You're just jealous that no one was talking about your shirt.
Yeah, that's true. It's usually all bad when people talk about my shirts. They're horrible.
Okay.
Roro on the Widowmaker. Saw him swap to the Tracer last time.
Roro with the Infest fight. Can't wait for it.
Doesn't have the same ring to it, does it?
No, not quite.
But he's playing pretty aggressive angles here. He knows that the last time they didn't challenge him with anything that could really take him down, but will retreat now, looking for early harass. Quite an aggressive player, Roro, on the DPS, so no surprise to see him out and about.
Yep, continuing to just put some chip damage into those tanks, but chip damage is still quite useful, and also charging up that infrasite fairly quickly indeed. Mini's going to drop down low, but out in the middle of nowhere, and Roro will take advantage of that. Now the infrasite available, the shot's going into Duboy, waiting for Nami to take the peek, and it's a good sleep from Dalsu.
Oh, he's nanoed the mech just as he dies. It's so unfortunate. That's so frustrating when you're an Ana player and you nano the D.Va, but she doesn't get the healing in time and she just gets D-mech'd.
Yeah, feels a bit unfair, but perhaps that is just life for Dalsu. I'm sure it's happened to everyone before. Ground Zero still sort of in this fight, although now I think with that kill on a Duboy, it probably is time to reset. Gunther recognizing that, goes off the map, and Warriors, well, Smash, you might be right. A minute 57 is now very quickly turned into 30 seconds.
Nami's managed to charge a lot of EMP ult though, but Duboy hasn't got the blade to match, and Dalsu using that nano boost on the D.Va that didn't actually amount to anything, means that things can be quite scary if you're Ground Zero now. You don't want to be desyncing your ults. We saw Mind Freak doing that last series and it really cost them.
A lot for Warriors to play with as well, you know, unless this EMP hits 6, well it hits 5, but Huss has his own EMP which is going to connect on 3. So it's an exchange of EMP, still favouring Warriors at this point as it's a kind of a 1-for-1. Noz's turret actually gets a kill on the Gunther after Noz dies, so he's at least still having an impact. And Modern has got the nano boost. He's just charging onto the point, doing so much damage. Nano boost plus supercharger. Everybody's dead. That's literally it. He's like a shredder. He's a paper shredder, and they're all paper. That's what it is. Smash. They're paper, and he's the paper shredder.
Ground Zero paper.
Do you want me to make the noise?
Oh. That exactly is
That's
what was
the
coming.
noise.
That was coming out of Modern's gun, was it?
Yes.
That's beautiful.
And probably his mouth as well, because surely at that point you just make.
Oh, when you get a nano
you
boost
just
on it, yeah, you really feel it, and as soon as you're pumping out that damage,
why not?
might
Have
as
a
well
bit of
get
fun with
into
it.
I know Yuki likes to make machine gun noises when he's on a.
Does he like to make machine gun noises when there's hail flying onto his car, like a machine gun as
He
well?
makes very different sounds when he's doing that. Very different sounds. I can tell you that much.
Maybe I've triggered some PTSD or something.
He's not happy about that. But Warriors will be happy with their defense, and they're going to capture just over a third, and then they'll be in for the win on this map. It can be quite difficult to capture. 244 is a tricky little time. So it's kind of like the same as Ground Zero. It was just enough time to build some ultimates up, but the Genji is quite difficult to build his ultimate up, because when you're building your ultimate as Genji versus those compositions, you're kind of in completely, because it's so hard to get any pocket healing or anything, so they just didn't take enough engagements for the Genji to get his ultimate up, for Mini to get his ultimate up, so ended quite poorly for the side of Ground Zero. Nami on the Widowmaker, he's going to be the X factor. He needs to nail some shots here.
He's going to need to nail more than just some. 2 minutes 44 is a lot of time for Warriors to play with, and a good opportunity now for them to equalise.
Most certainly. I think the ball's in their court at the moment. Dalsu needs to hit some big nades. Could be pretty difficult against the Warriors. They're quite a disciplined team. Noz, quite a good D.Va player too. I'm sure he'll be watching that. Little tongue is not too fond of crossing the bridge. Manages to get across though.
Nami uncontested as of yet. A nice boop goes through onto Modern. Tries to contest that higher ground. Forces Warriors into a bit of an awkward position here, but Mini dives straight back on in. Does a 360 in the air, because why not? Sleep dart on through. A great shot from Tongue. But is it enough to keep them in the fight here?
I don't know if it will be. Tongue looks like he's going down, but no, a really quick EMP from Huss might be able to turn the fight. He goes down though. Modern's still alive on the point, closing in on that Primal Rage. If he can get that, it could turn things, make things very difficult for the side of Ground Zero.
Oh, nano boost on the Modern. He loves these, especially right on top of Dalsu, although maybe not when you're asleep. We did expect to see Gurana play out of today, and we've seen that so far. Modern and Jungle do open things up, however, for Warriors. Ground Zero really just struggling to stay on this point. They have given up now one tick, and Modern with the Primal Rage finishes it off. Gus and Mini tries to dive right on top of Nami, who translocates out just in time, but it's Duboy that'll fall, and Warriors that will claim the map. One apiece now, and halftime is looming, but we still are no further to confirming who wins this series, really, than we were 2 maps ago.
No, we're right back where we started, essentially. But this is where things started to get messy for the Warriors in their previous matches. A few weeks in a row now, they've dropped the ball at the back half of the series, but now they're coming in 1-1. It'll be interesting to see if they let the foot off the gas or if they'll continue going strong. But And you mentioned the Ana players at the start of the game or during the game, but it's been the Winstons for me. Both Mini and Modern have had massive Primal Rages. They got massive value out of it, and they've been playing really, really well.
Yeah, look, I think when I'm talking about the Anas, I'm just sort of saying, like, we're seeing pretty solid stuff. You know, the sleep darts seem to be hitting when they need to, and we're seeing some pretty kind of good sleep darts as well, not just ones where you're like, oh, that was a pretty decent sleep dart, but it didn't have that much of an impact. Like, these are good sleep darts onto Winstons that are getting a nano boost or something like that, shutting stuff down. But you're absolutely right. I will actually back you up there and say I think that the Winstons here have been really, really impactful on both sides. It's been a pretty all over the place kind of game, though, to be honest. You know, we've seen all the DPS kind of compositions. We've seen all the kind of Arista compositions and everything like that. It's all happening right now.
Yeah, it's getting pretty wild out here, but that kind of lends itself to the way the Warriors like to play their Overwatch. This is really nice from Modern. Great primal mechanics shown here. We see it from Quats occasionally, and now we see it from Modern too. He managed to get the primal mechanics down pat, and that's 3 kills, but unfortunately wasn't enough to turn the fight. But yeah, no, we've seen some really great plays out of both these teams, and the messier style kind of favours Warriors a little bit more, I believe, just because they are very experienced at playing these DPS compositions. They are ready for anything, pretty much, it seems like.
Hopefully for Warriors, they're going to put in a bit of a better saying for themselves toward the end of this series. You know, like, obviously you mentioned that their last halves have been a little bit weaker than their first halves. Yep. I think, again, that might be part of the fact that, like, they're so dominant in the first couple of halves where they just like, oh, you know, we don't need to go so hard.
Well, yeah.
But now, one apiece, like, that situation changes.
We saw last week, I think it was, that the first Atletico, it took 20 minutes to get out 2 maps, and then all of a sudden things became sticky in their back end. And that's not what you want if you're a Warriors fan.
No, definitely not indeed. And probably being one apiece is not what you would want right now, as either Warriors or Ground Zero, as a 2-0 would have been much preferred. Nonetheless, this is how we head into the halftime break. So it's going to be Ground Zero and Warriors coming back after this.